Welcome to this explainer on Guy W. Wallace's Enterprise Process Performance Improvement, or EPPI for short. Today, we're figuring out how to look way past those surface-level workplace symptoms to uncover the real root causes of performance issues. Basically, we're going to transform from mere order takers into diagnostic detectives. Let's get right into it. So, as learning and development pros, we've all been there, right? A frantic manager runs up and says, "My team is making mistakes. We need a new training course ASAP." Naturally, we want to help. So we just take the order and start building a curriculum. But hold on a second. We have to stop and ask, is an instructional course actually what the business needs? Guy W. Wallace hits the nail on the head here. He boldly warns us that while a request for training new hires is totally expected, a request for L&D to address a performance problem, that should be suspected. We have to put on our detective hats. We really need to investigate. Is the issue literally a lack of knowledge and skill, or is there something broken in the system itself? To solve this mystery, we'll cover 5 key areas today. First, the L&D Pivot Point. Second, peeling the enterprise onion. Third, stakeholders, outputs, and tasks. Fourth, hunting the true enablers. And finally, the 2 stages of EPI. Okay, Section 1, the L&D Pivot Point, and how we move beyond just taking the order. So you're doing your initial instructional analysis, and you hit this exact moment, the L&D Pivot Point. You're looking at your data, and the data tells you what to do next. If there's a genuine knowledge gap, great, proceed with instructional development. But what if the evidence shows the workers already know how to do the job, but something else is stopping them? That is when you must make a pivot to non-instructional performance improvement. At that point, it's actually no longer an O&D decision, it's a business decision. Let's move to Section 2, peeling the enterprise onion, navigating EPPI Tiers 1 and 2. Here's the deal. We have to stop seeing the organization simply as this rigid org chart of isolated departments. Instead, we need to view the enterprise as a massive, living, interconnected bundle of processes. This is Tier 1 of our mental model. Everything that happens in a business is a process. So when performance takes a hit, it means a process is failing somewhere. Digging a bit deeper into Tier 2, we find that absolutely every single organizational entity, from a tiny local team to a massive global division, is made up of 4 specific process systems. You've got leadership processes, like strategic planning, core management processes, like assigning work, the core processes themselves, which are the unique daily tasks of that department, and finally, support processes, like IT. When you're investigating a performance gap, you have to figure out exactly which of these 4 buckets is leaking. Now we peel back to Section 3. Stakeholders, outputs, and tasks, investigating EPPI Tier 3. Down in Tier 3, we're looking at the specific workflow. And you have to remember this golden rule. An output is just an input downstream. A drafted report becomes the input for a manager's review. So our investigation requires 4 distinct steps. First, identify the outputs. Second, map those outputs to the stakeholders who care about them. Third, determine exactly what requirements those stakeholders have. And fourth, capture the actual behavioral and cognitive tasks needed to build that output. And this perfectly highlights the complexity of what workers face every day. Look at these wildly conflicting requirements. Executive management is pushing for high ROI and low costs, while customers want top-tier quality and low prices. Employees just want a safe workplace and financial security, while the government is breathing down everyone's neck, demanding strict compliance. Master performers are the ones who figure out how to constantly balance these conflicting needs. Honestly, if an employee is failing, it might simply be because the stakeholder requirements are totally at odds. So, if the workers know what they are supposed to do and skills aren't the problem, what is actually causing the performance gap? This brings us to Section 4, hunting the true enablers. To find the real culprit, we use the EPPI fishbone diagram. This combines Thomas F. Gilbert's behavior engineering model with the Ishikawa diagram. It forces us to evaluate 3 distinct areas, in order. Before we even glance at the people, we absolutely have to look at the process itself. Is the defined process illogical? Does it take way too long? Only if the process design is flawless do we move down to look at environmental enablers and then human enablers. Let's zoom in on environmental enablers. More often than not, the issue isn't human error at all. I mean, you could have the absolute best trained employee in the world, but if they're dealing with broken tools, missing data, zero budget, or a toxic culture where doing the right thing actually gets them punished, they're going to fail. You simply cannot train your way out of a broken environment. It's only after we've evaluated the process and the environment that we finally look at human enablers. And check this out. Awareness, knowledge, and skills is just one single point here. It's a tiny fraction of what a human actually needs to succeed. Do they have the necessary physical attributes, the right psychological attitude? Do their personal values align with the work? A new training course only fixes that first bullet point. It literally does nothing for the rest of it. Now that we've found the root causes across our 5 tiers, we move to Section 5, the 2 stages of EPPI, going from target to action. In Stage 1, which is called targeting EPPI, we have to prove that fixing the problem is actually worth the cash. We do this by calculating 2 things. First, the cost of non-conformance, or CONC. Basically, what's the price of doing absolutely nothing? How much money is the business bleeding right now? We weigh that against the cost of conformance, or COC, which is the actual investment required to build and implement the fix. Proving ROI is absolutely crucial here, because this is what gets you executive buy-in. Think about it. If you show management that the cost of doing nothing is a $50,000 loss and the cost to implement a process fix is just 10 grand, boom, you've just delivered a massive 400% return on investment to the business. Now, sometimes the math shows it's actually cheaper to just live with the problem, but when that ROI is solid, you get the green light. Stage I runs on a rapid 4-phase timeline: project planning, analyzing the current state, designing a high-level future state, and implementation planning. The goal here isn't to get bogged down. The whole point of Stage 1 is to quickly scope out the problem and secure that management buy-in before we burn significant time or resources building anything. It's all about locking in the target. Only after we get approval do we move to Stage 2, intervention initiatives. This is a rigorous 6-phase life cycle. We do the deep analysis, detailed design, actual development, pilot testing, and finally, revision and release. This is where we actually stand up the new systems in the real world, whether that turns out to be redesigned manufacturing processes, rolling out new software, or yes, even targeted L&D products to support the new environment. As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to take a hard look at your own L&D strategy. When those requests for help come in, are you content just taking orders for training that might not even fix the real problem? Or are you ready to master EPPI, become a diagnostic detective, and systematically drive true, measurable performance impact? The choice is entirely up to you. So, what's your next move going to be?